Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Heather, and today we're going to be doing a video where I read the rainbow again, but the internet is controlling my TBR. There are a few rules that I have set for myself for this particular reading challenge, whatever you want to call it, and the color must be on the cover. Okay, that's important because we're reading the rainbow here. The book or books also have to be on my shelf. They have to be from the library, or they have to be on my Kindle, specifically on Kindle Limited or like a NetGalley Arc or something like that, because I'm not trying to spend any money in this particular video. And if I get 20 out of 28 points for the books that I read, I get to buy myself a new book. Points, you might be asking, what does that even mean? I found a website called Color Meanings, and it's just telling you what each color from the rainbow and what it represents. And I have went through and picked out like the different representations, the meanings of the colors in bullet point forms, and you will see that in my pretty little graphics that I've made. But it comes up to 28 of them, I believe. So if I get 20 out of the 28, then I get to buy myself a new book, which means the books that I pick have to correspond with the color and the meaning of each color, like the representation of each color. Does that make sense? It makes sense in my brain. I don't know if it makes sense to you, but hopefully as the video continues, we'll get a good thing going here. The first color that we're going to do is red. Red, according to Color Meanings, it symbolizes enthusiasm, passion, security, and vitality. And just a little something about red in a lot of religions, especially like Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, it has specific meanings, and that's why they are used. In Christianity, it symbolizes energy and wisdom. In Buddhism and in Hinduism, it symbolizes grounding. It's also used in literature a lot, and in just like in everyday world, it represents passion, danger, all of those things, hostility. And according to Color Meanings, in Japan and China, red is the most reserved color of the rainbow, and that is why brides in China and Japan wear red on their wedding day, which I thought was very interesting. You might have already known that, but we're going to learn some things together in this video, okay? So for red, I found this blog post called Bookish Blades, and it has colors of, or it has books with red covers on it. Just wanted to go through here, see what's on this list. Sling, The Shadow Prince, haven't heard of it. Coven Tendency, I am feeling, oh, Rise to the Sun. But I don't have that book on my bookshelf. I wanted to read that. I've read The Honey Don't List. It was okay. I have Cemetery Boys on my bookshelf. Ooh, Pride, Prejudice, and Other Flavors. That's been on my TBR cart since last year. I also have the audiobook for that one. Oh, that's a contender. Catching Fire, Ruby Red, Eldest. I have read Scythe. I enjoyed that one. Simon versus the Homo sapiens, Hero of the Fall. Ooh, there's Phantasma. I really liked Phantasma last year. Strike the Zither, The Mime Order. He's at 10. What is that? Huh. Never heard of that. That looks really cute though. There's a Chloe Lease on there. Ooh, I have heard really good things about Everything for You. There are some good ones on here. Gittersea? I've never heard of that. Last Sorceress. What is that? Grobe Gefallen. Eve Isn't Queer. Oh, that is in a different language. Okay. I don't know. I don't know what that one is. The Red Palace, Girls of Fate, Iron Widow, Our Violent Ends. I have the first book of that, so I need to read the first book first before I get to that one. The Bronze Beast, She Who Became the Sun. I've heard really good things about that one too. Ooh, Jade War's on there, but that's the second book in a series. I do have the first book of the series. Do I remember what it's called right now? No. Shame on me. But I do have the first book. Nocturna? What is that? The Library of the Unwritten, Broken Red Sky, Bridge of the Souls, Good Girl, Bad Blood. I've read that book before, and that's the end. So there are some good contenders on here. I'll have to go look at my bookshelves, look at my, library to see which book I'm going to read for Red. Look at my cute shirt that I got from the library yesterday, or the day before, I don't remember, but I got it from the library. I thought that it was a freaking adorable. Reading Rainbow, yes. And that was one of the inspirations as for me doing this video. Again, I know that I've already done one. If you haven't seen that one, I will put it up in the cards for you, but let's get to reading. I'm gonna go pick my first Red book. It's time to talk about the first book that I picked for this particular vlog. I picked Pride, Prejudice, and Other Flavors because it's been on my bookshelf for forever and it's all red, obviously. I think this is going to be the perfect pick for me at the moment. So this is about Trisha and an up-and-coming chef DJ, Kane. Oh, that's pretty cool. Anyways, Trisha is a neurosurgeon and she is considered very arrogant. Not a lot of people like her, but he realizes that she is the only neurosurgeon that could possibly save his sister's life. So there's probably going to be a lot of animosity, angst, banter, maybe hate to love in here, and I'm really excited about it. I've heard really good things about this book. I love a good Pride and Prejudice retelling, so I think this would be the perfect book for me at the moment. Okay, and it was on the list that we looked at. I ended up finishing this and I'm giving it a 3.5. Before we get into my overall review of everything, let's talk about the 4 bullet points that come along with Red, or the color red. They are enthusiasm, passion, vitality, and security. And I do think that this book has all 4 of those, but just not in the way that I was anticipating at all. This book is more of a deep dive into Trisha's family rather than, well, Trisha's family and also her career rather than the romance of her and DJ. I appreciated that for the most part. I do think that this book was written, like, it's 481 pages, and I don't think that it should have been that long. But it does reflect Trisha's life, and you see the development of her family as well in here, like her family relationship, because she considers herself the black sheep of the family and doesn't really get along with her dad all that much. And something happened when she was younger to where she feels like she is ostracized from the family. And you find that out way later in the book. We also have DJ, who is a chef, and he has moved from London because his sister has some sort of disease in her eye, like in her optic nerves, where if she does not remove the tumor from her optic nerves, she could die. And Trisha has developed this technology, because she's a neurosurgeon, she's developed this technology that could potentially save DJ's sister's life. When they meet, their meet cute is not a very good one at all. I'm smiling because just from their first interaction, you can tell that they did not like each other at all. And DJ realizes that Trisha is his sister's doctor. So they form this, I wouldn't even call it a relationship, but they form, how do you explain it? It's not even acquaintance. They have respect for each other because DJ respects Trisha for what she does, but he just doesn't like her. He does not like her personality at all. Because Trisha does come across as condescending and better than everybody else at first, but she compensates that with how she feels with her family, because she does feel ostracized from her family, like I said. But once you get to know Trisha, and once DJ gets to know Trisha, he figures out that she is not as bad as he thought. I did like that aspect of the book, but at the end, I didn't feel the overall chemistry with Trisha and DJ at all. I liked more of the family aspect of this book more than anything, and I liked seeing Trisha's relationship with her family mend and get better. And I also really liked DJ and his sister's relationship too. I thought that it was very sweet, and it goes to show that DJ loves his sister more than anything in the world, and he would do anything for her. And I just think that that is awesome when siblings do that for each other. And yeah, I do think that this book, okay, this book reminded me a lot of like Abby Jimenez, where you have a lot of emotions. It makes you emotional. You laugh, you tear up, all of those things. I was laughing out loud in this book. But then the author does a really good job with balancing humor and sadness. And overall, I think that it was a good book. Well done. I just didn't really like the romance. And that's how I feel about a lot of, would this be considered a rom-com? I don't know. That's how I feel about a lot of books that are like this, that deal with extremely difficult topics of like somebody working on the brain. And seeing Trisha being a doctor, a neurosurgeon, she takes it really seriously. And sometimes in books, I don't want that kind of stuff in my romance. Like in the end, like I said, I just didn't really care. Not that I didn't care, I just didn't feel the chemistry that they were supposed to have. So 3.5. If you're looking for a really deep dive into family aspects, family dynamics, Trisha being a boss babe, like she knows her crap, okay? She knows it, and she's a really, really good doctor. One thing that I do have a gripe about this is when I am reading books by Indian authors, I am expecting the food to be like fire, okay? But DJ is a chef, and we barely even got any cooking from him. Like, he did cook, and when he cooked, Trisha was like falling in love with him. That was one of the reasons why she like really started to like him. And that's not a spoiler. You get that from the very beginning when she's eating his food when he's catering. Anyways, but we didn't really get any of that. We saw him cook like maybe 3 or 4 times, but I was like, I wanted more food, okay? Wanted more food. I was expecting a lot of food with him being a chef. But anyways, I'm not gonna say that this is not a good book, because I thought that it was, but I do think it was a little bit too long. And the relationship, yeah, you know, I could have done without the relationship portion. I think it might have been better if they were just like friends. I don't know, you know. But the next color we're going to talk about is Violet. I am excited about this book that I picked for this. I was on the Pinterest, okay? Pinterest is what shows the Violet books for me. I went on there and I just searched Violet book cover recommendations or something like that. And it took me a little bit to realize that there was a book that I had from the library on the list, because the cover is a little bit different than when I was scrolling. So the color violet is supposed to be associated with being kind and empathetic, and also individuality as well as selflessness. It's also linked to royalty, which I thought was really interesting, as a lot of people who wear violet signify that they have power in society, especially like throughout history. And I thought that was very interesting. But the 5 bullet points that we're going to focus with for Violet are creativity, imagination, luxury, mystery, royalty. And while I was scrolling on the Pinterest, like I said, I came across Never the Roses. I've never heard of this book. I just picked this book up at the library the other day. The picture that I saw on Pinterest is white, like a silvery white, but it does have the violet. And I thought that the sprayed edges on this book were really pretty. If you look really close at the flower, it's a violet-y color. So I chose this one. And it says that all she wanted was one look at the library of her greatest enemy, and after a lifetime of being welded against each other, they finally meet. I think that this might be a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I don't know that for sure, but we're gonna find out together. Really, all I know is that she's bored, that she's accepted her death, and she is going to try to steal a book from a person, and then they're gonna fall in love. I'm not really sure. I just know that she's a bored sorceress who wants this book for a specific reason. We're gonna figure it out together. Like I said, I do think this is Beauty and the Beast retelling, just by the vibes and the rose and all of that in books, and him being like a beastly character, Vile King, you know, all of those things. We're gonna figure it out together though. So wish me luck. I do have the audiobook for this. And again, the book is really, really pretty. It has a map in it as well. You know, I love me some maps. And the chapter headings are very, very pretty too. What's on the back? That's just from Never the Rose. Okay. But yeah, we're going to be reading Never the Roses by Jennifer L. Lambert. I hate to say it, but I did not like this book. And I was completely wrong about it being a Beauty and the Beast retelling. It's more like a Maleficent, is that how you say it? Retelling. Because Onira is like a wicked witch, not really. She's a sorceress and she has a lot of power. Something in her past has happened where she has had to use her power for evil, so she has outcast herself. And then we have Sternos, who is a wizard, sorcerer as well. They are quote-unquote enemies, and Ornera steals a book from Sternos's library, and then they form this kind of like combative relationship at the very beginning. She thinks it's fun to mess with him, and then he realizes who she is, and they have like communications between books and stuff like that. I thought that was really cute. But then the relationship happened and they fell in love really quick. Okay, it was like super quick. I do not really like insta lovey stories. I don't know what she saw in Sternos, to be completely honest, because I found him very flat as a character and I just didn't really like him all that much. I liked her character a lot. If you like Cersei, this is like a watered down version of Cersei. I loved Cersei, okay? I thought Cersei was so good, but that was because we just followed Cersei and we didn't follow another character and then her trying to fall in love and blah, blah, blah. But I thought that this book was just kind of flat, you know? So I'm gonna give it 2 stars. I don't think that it was horrible. I have to take a phone call. Give me a second. Sorry, it was for my baby. But yeah, I don't know. I liked all the animal familiars in here though. I thought that they were really cute, but I really wish we would have just followed her and her animals and like her mundane life that she has created for herself, because I was really interested in that. And then the second half of the book happened and it just kind of went downhill for me. So I don't know if I would recommend this to you or not, to be completely honest. But the point of this is to figure out if I was able to get some points, you know, so I can go buy a new book, you know. That's the whole point of this vlog. The 5 types, or the 5 words that correspond with Violet, are supposed to be creativity, imagination, luxury, mystery, royalty. So in this book there was a lot of creativity because Ornera can like pull information from dreams and create things. So I didn't say imagination because she doesn't really like use her imagination to do that. She literally just like pulls things out of dreams. Luxury, she does make a luxurious home for herself. Mystery, there is a lot of mystery in this book because of Sternos and Ornera not knowing who each other is. So I did put that in there. I got 3 points. Not the best, not the worst, you know. But we're getting on up there. I have 7 points right now. 7 points. Yeah, okay. It was like 73 to 75 degrees yesterday. And earlier today, it started snowing. Like, it was like coming down snow. And that's just ridiculous, okay? That's ridiculous. The next color we're gonna read is orange. And I went on to Storygraph, looked at the recommendation list that they had for all of the different genres that I read. So my main genres that I read are romance, thriller, horror, sci-fi, and fantasy. And those are like the bookshelves that I went through and looked at. There were a bunch that were on there. So I just went through and looked at all of the orange covers. I found a few, but I decided on one specific book because I've had it on my bookshelf for a while and I have read from this author before and I have loved his work. So can you guess which one we're going to read before, you know, it pops up on the screen for you? Can you guess? Can you guess which one? Let me know in the comments down below if you guessed it correctly when it pops up. I'm really excited to get into this book. I've had this book on my bookshelf for a while and I can't wait, okay? I can't wait. So typically orange symbolizes happiness and friendliness and feeling comfy, which we'll get into in just a second with this book. According to the chakra system, orange in this context represents the energy often associated with creativity, sexuality, and fertility. And it also represents creativity and the ability to enjoy life. The three main principles of orange that we're going to be focusing on, though, are endurance, perseverance, and strength. And I think that this book represents endurance, perseverance, and strength just because of the subject matter and hearing what I have heard about Razor Blade Tears by S.A. Cosby. It's about these two men who end up losing their sons. Their sons were married and they died during a hate crime, and these two fathers decide to get together and hunt down their sons' killers. If that doesn't scream endurance, perseverance, and strength to you, I don't know what does. But I am really excited to get into this. I've heard fabulous things about this. I have already started and I'm on chapter 4, and I can already tell that this is going to be a hard-hitting book where I am going to get emotional and just following these two dads who they aren't perfect parents, okay? They're not perfect parents, but they did love their sons and they want revenge. So they want to avenge their son's deaths, and I am here for it, okay? Because I got two sons too, and I would do a hell of a lot for my kids, okay? I would do a hell of a lot. I am giving Razor Blade Tears 5 stars. This is my favorite S.A. Cosby so far. I really like this a lot. It is very brutal, it's gruesome, but it's about these two dads who are trying to avenge their sons by tracking down their sons' killers and taking them out. They go through a lot together, and there's just a lot of life lessons in here because their sons were married. Both of these dads had an issue with their son's sexuality and realized that it didn't matter that their sons were gay and that they should have been there for their sons and they should have loved their sons for who they were, and now they're just trying to, like I said, avenge their sons' deaths. And this book just has a lot of talk about acceptance and trying to understand others who are different than you. Both of these fathers have a lot of guilt as well, and they are just trying to do right by their sons now. They're not perfect by any means, and they go through a lot together. They learn a lot from each other. There's a lot of racism in here. There's a lot of homophobic language in here, but I can say that Ike and Billy Lee, they do come together. They make a good team, and they do the damn thing, you know? They do it. It takes a lot to get there, but they finally do it. And I really liked this book, and it was just action-packed. It was funny at times. It had a lot of heartwarming scenes in here. It was really sad, but I think parents for real could really get a lot out of this book. Like, this should be like a handbook on what not to do for a lot of things, okay? But I can see why both of these dads go after their sons' killers, because, I mean, it's like that question that people, would you kill for your kids? And a lot of people say no, and I don't understand that. But that's what this book's all about, okay? It's all about that. But I really like this book, and I see why it's a lot of people's favorites of S.A. Cosby. S.A. Cosby just has a craft about his writing, and I really liked it. I really liked it. It was a harder read, but it was also super action packed, and it just went and went and went, and I really liked it. So the next color we're going to read is blue. And for this specific color, I went on to my Goodreads shelves and looked at the book recommendations. I went through a couple of shelves, came across sci-fi, and I was really excited about the sci-fi category because there was a specific book in here that I have seen and that I've heard about people raving about over the years. I've been wanting to read it. I've seen it at my library. I just haven't picked it up. And it is This Is How You Lose a Time War. Blue is supposed to be calming. It is supposed to signify relaxation, communication, knowledge, and peace. And from what I hear, this book has a lot of that in there too. Blue also represents stability and can illustrate melancholy. It's also used in healing practices as well. So this book is about two people who have, like, one gets a note from another one. They're in different time periods, I believe, and they fall in love. And I know that it's LGBTQ+A+ as well. So we gotta have some queer representation in here, and I'm really excited to get into this. My family just got home, so that's why I'm speeding through, but we're gonna be reading this next. I was able to fly through How to Lose a Time War last night while I was playing Sims. And I'm giving this book a 3.75. It did have the communication in here, obviously, because red and blue write to each other through letters. That's how they communicate. And it did have a lot of knowledge. Like, they're both extremely intelligent. Both like to have one over on the other, which I liked, because they are in competition to see who can basically destroy strands of time. That's basically what this is. They are on opposing sides, and they form this bond through writing letters to each other. First, they're just kind of like poking fun at each other and, you know, hee-hawing, but then they form an attachment to each other, and I thought that it was really sweet, but there just wasn't enough relationship development in here for me, because at one point they're like, yeah, screw you, I beat you, and then the next they're saying that they love each other and stuff like that. And it was just kind of like, whoa, you know, it was a little quick for me. But I can see why a lot of people would like this. I thought that it was well done in a lot of ways. I can't really tell you a whole lot because I don't want to ruin it for you since it is a shorty. But I can see why this is so heavily loved by a lot of people. If you're more of a literary, science fiction, romance type person, I think that you would really, really enjoy this. But when I am reading romance, I want to learn about the relationship development, and that's what my main focus would be. And in this one, it is more heavily focused on the sci-fi aspect of time travel and, like I said, closing the strands of time, destroying time strands. If you've ever seen Loki, I think you would really, really like this, because it reminded me a lot of like the Loki show, where you have time traveling, and like if you break off of a time, like a timeline or whatever, it can really mess up the universe and stuff like that. So it really reminded me of that. But yeah, calm, not in this book, because this book was not calm. This book was very destructive. And peace, not a lot of peace in here either, because like I said, they are destroying timelines. But yeah, I would recommend this to a lot of people, especially if you're more of a literary person. Next color we're going to do is my favorite of the rainbow, and that is yellow. And yellow is considered like the happiest color of the rainbow, obviously because it's the brightest, but it represents energy, warmth, and it's often associated with happiness, clear thinking, communication, and inspiration. It's used to capture people's attention. So like, think highlighters, think like super bright colors that you, like when you're annotating and stuff like that. It's just to bring awareness and attention. So the 4 words that I'm going to be focusing on for yellow in the book that I chose: awareness, cheerfulness, energy, and orderliness. Those are the 4 books. And I went down the rabbit hole with this one because my challenge to myself was, okay, have you done the read your color like quiz and everything, there's like a quiz that you can take to read, like to figure out what color reader you are, and I got yellow. So a yellow reader is considered the emotional catalyst, and we focus on emotionally bright, vibrant, driven by passion, driven by, or we're drawn to books that have really intense feelings and a lot of heart. And I think that's why I really like romance so much, because those are the books that I usually gravitate towards. But I wanted to pick a book from the recommendations that this dude who like created Read Your Color, and I had to dig, because a lot of these books that he recommends are not only literary, which is not my favorite, but they are also new releases. But I did find an article back from like November 2025 that this book that I chose popped up on, and I was really excited because I have seen so many and heard so many good things about this book, and it is Sula by Toni Morrison. Now I know this is like a lot of green, okay, and the cover that is in the actual article is green and gold, but I'm gonna cheat because I can, and I'm gonna say that the sun, even though it's kind of orangey, it's yellow, okay? Then there's like yellow tones in this, and the goldy of the other cover that's green and gold is pretty much the same yellow tone that I used in my graphics. Okay, so we're gonna read Sula because I want to, and he said that I would like it because I'm considered a yellow reader. And the only thing that I know about this is that this is centered around friendship between two women, Sula and Nell. They are both black, both smart, both poor, and raised in a small town in Ohio. And I've heard that this is messy. It gets very deep, and it is going to make me mad, most likely, because evidently Sula is not the, like, your perfect protagonist. And I think that's all I'm going to say right now. So I have the audiobook for it. It's narrated by Toni Morrison. I just started this last night, and I got 16 pages in before I went to sleep. But this is historical. This is supposed to make me feel all kinds of feelings. So I'll let you know how I feel. Let's talk about Miss Sula, okay? Because Miss Sula, this book, even though it is tiny, it packs a big punch, and it's talking about the complexity behind female relationships, friendship, growing up with somebody and realizing that the path that they're taking is not the path that you want to take. And Sula isn't the most likable character, but she is real. I don't know if I would be Sula's friend per se, but I can see why she does some of the things that she does, because growing up she did not have the best home life. She saw a lot of things that she probably shouldn't have seen as a kid with her mom, and Sula's just like doing her thing, and people in the town don't like her. Don't like her at all. And her best friend Nell, like, they're best friends growing up, and something happens when they're younger that kind of puts a rift in their relationship, but they feel an obligation to still stay friends. And as they are getting older, Sula starts to do things to Nell that Nell doesn't appreciate, and things that friends shouldn't do to each other. So by the end, Sula doesn't have a very good reputation in this town. And I'm going to give it a 4. I thought that Toni Morrison's writing was just very lyrical. It was beautiful. It had a lot of heart to it, and I felt like I read a full-length novel, but it didn't feel like it just went on and on and on. I was actually wanting more by the end of it, and I can see why a lot of people love this book, because it's really good. Even it being tiny, I felt a lot of emotions, and Toni Morrison did the damn thing with this one, okay? She's an excellent author, and her writing is just beautiful. I think you should pick it up if you like complex stories about female relationships and growing up in a not a very good stable home life. I think that you would really like this. Looking at the points for yellow: awareness, cheerfulness, energy and orderliness. This book didn't really have a lot of cheerfulness in it, nor did it have a lot of I can't say that word. Orderliness. Okay, but it did have awareness and energy in it, so I did get 2 points out of that. 2 points, yay. I'm not up to 20 yet, I don't think, but I'm not very good at math, so yep. Next color that we're going to do is green, and I like green. It's not my favorite color, but I like green. It's up there with pink and yellow. Green represents life, and unfortunately it represents money as well, and envy. It also represents growth. Green, obviously, living off nature, recycling, that going green that everybody talks about. It is supposed to represent like good for the environment. This website that I used, I thought that this was a really interesting fact, is that the human eye is capable of recognizing more shades of green than any color in the rainbow, and I thought that that was really cool. So we're looking for growth, health, nature, and wealth is also in there too. Looking for the first 3 words that represent green, you know. We're gonna be looking at some page-bound quests that I joined. One of these quests is called Botanical Horror. I love me some botanical horror. The weirder the better when it comes to that, okay? When the forests are taking over, forests are eating people, plants are eating people. I love that stuff. And I had this on my bookshelf, and it's also on there. So I am up to, how many of these have I read? I have read 9. So when I have read this particular book, I get the silver coin. I don't really know, like, it's just like points, whatever. When I read this, I'm gonna get a silver. So this book is about a monster that lives in the lake, and her name is Jenny Greenteeth, and she is ready to pounce, and she's hungry. She has never spoken to a human before, but when a witch is thrown into her lake by an angry mob, something makes Jenny decide that she's not worth saving decides she's worth saving instead of eating. Wow, I can't read. So she learns about the witch's once peaceful village, and she's going to have revenge on the townspeople that threw this witch into the lake, and I am all for that. I love me some woman's rage, female rage. I love it, and I like it when people get revenge on people who deserve it. So we're gonna read this. It's been a couple days since I have filmed anything. But wanted to let you know that I ended up finishing Greenteeth. I'm giving this a 3.75. I thoroughly enjoyed my time with this. This was a lot more sad than I thought that it was going to be. And it really just is about this Jenny Greenteeth. They are a species that live in lakes, and they are very powerful. They eat, you know, people. They just pretty much eat anything. It kind of reminded me of like Avatar, if the avatars were like crocodiles. That's what it kind of reminded me of. But the Jennies, they are kind of going extinct. There's not that many left. The Jenny that lives in this pond ends up meeting Temperance, because Temperance at the very beginning gets thrown into Jenny's pond, lake, and Jenny is very interested because Temperance is said to be a witch. And as Jenny and Temperance become friends and they get to know each other, Jenny realizes that she really wants to help Temperance out because Temperance has a family. This preacher who has come into the town deems Temperance as a witch, and he wants to rid of all the witches because witches are evil. Blah, blah, blah. And this, I wasn't expecting the religious undertone in this particular book, even though I should have known, because it does say it on the back here that there's a new pastor, and you know, he's not good. But the turn that it went in finding out about the pastor was very interesting to me. I did like that aspect of the book. It was just the overall journey to get to where the ending of the book did. Like, they actually have to go on like a road trip, not really road trip, but they actually have to go on like a journey and adventure. And it just kind of got boring in those parts, but I really did love the found family aspect of this book. Y'all know that I love me a found family. I liked the friendship that Temperance and Jenny created with each other, because Temperance, she's an outcast, Jenny is an outcast. You know, outcast becoming friends and more becoming family. And I just thought that this book was really sweet in that aspect, and I liked their friendship a lot. I am going to read more from this author. I liked the humor in here. There's a dog named Cavil in here, and he was just the absolute best. But I really did like Temperance and Jenny as separate characters and them as friends. I thought that it was really, really sweet. But yeah, it was overall a pretty good read, and I can't wait to continue on reading from this author. Now, getting into the points, you know, green is about growth, health, nature, and wealth. This book, Green Teeth, had all of that, so I'm going to give myself a four points for all of those points. I would highly recommend you read Green Teeth if you're interested in it. If you're wanting a little cozy fantasy, not mystery, a cozy fantasy, I highly would recommend it. It does have some horror aspects to it too, so just beware. And I did complete my silver for botanical horror. The next color that we're going to get into is indigo, and I just put in Google images indigo book covers, and I was scrolling through and I found this one book. But before we get into the actual book, let's talk about what indigo actually means or represents, whatever you want to call it. So it encourages people to think more deeply about life, and it has strong connections to spiritualism plus inward thinking. So thinking about yourself and reflecting on yourself. It also represents mystery because it is a mix between blue and purple, and some people don't think that indigo should be on the rainbow, but it's there. And according to the website that I used, indigo results in a person feeling intolerant, sometimes judgmental, and if you have too much inward thinking, it can cause a lot of frustration. So indigo does cause frustration to some people, like I said, because people don't think it should be in the rainbow. Whatever. I don't mind indigo. I think indigo is a beautiful color. But the words, or the words that represent indigo are going to be what we're going to be looking for in the book that I picked, is awareness, intuition, wisdom, and spiritual attainment. So we're going to see if A Song to Drown Rivers has any of those aspects. I have already started reading it. It is about a girl who has been chosen to woo this king who is not a very good person, basically be like a spy for the enemy, and I'm only 9 chapters in. So far it's pretty emotional. It's interesting to the point where I'm going to continue to read it. The audiobook, the narrator, I love the narrator of this book so much. She is one of the best narrators that's out there. Our main character does not come from a very wealthy family. She gets this opportunity to be a spy for her people and try to woo the king, who is a horrible person and who has an army that's out and about and murdering people on the streets. Kind of relevant to what's going on today. She is taking the opportunity. She's going to be training for it, but the person who is training her, she's very attracted to, and he has already saved her life once. So I'm thinking it's going to be a very emotional read, and a lot of growth is going to happen, hence the indigo in here, like looking in, the intuition, Anyways, we're going to see how it goes. It's supposed to have a fantastical element to it too, so I'm interested to see how that's going to work, and I will keep you updated. This is the last book of the video, y'all. I ended up finishing A Song to Drown Rivers, and I'm going to give it a 3. I thought that this book was very slow, and it was also boring to me. While it did have a pretty interesting premise, I just don't think that it was executed very well. It's about Saoirse, and I just think that she was done really crappy. Really crappy. And I don't know, the pacing of this book just kind of fell off to me. and I didn't particularly like the fact that there was a there was a love story in here. Not that I didn't like one of the love stories, but one of the main love stories in here I did not like. I didn't like that the author even put them together like she did. I know that that was one of the points of the book, but just the way that Cersei was towards, I don't know, it's hard to say. I just didn't want her to like have the feelings that she did towards the Rivalry King. I wanted this to be about revenge. I wanted it to be like, I guess I've been wanting more Daggermouth vibes from books lately when it comes to revenge. This was more of a like coming of age sort of revenge story. Yeah, I don't know. It was okay. It was alright. It was more sad than anything, and that's not what I was looking for. Even though some of the reviews say that it's really sad, it was sad, but it wasn't like tear-jerking to me, and it was just kind of like, what was the point of it all at the very end, if you know what I mean. So the points that we are looking at, or the words that we're looking for, the 4 words, are awareness, intuition, wisdom, and spiritual attainment. And I did mark awareness, intuition, and wisdom in here. At the very beginning, I said that my goal is to get 20 points based on the covers, based on color, words that are associated with colors, all that stuff. And I ended up getting 21 out of 28. So that means I get to go buy me a book. My husband's going to be so excited. I get to go buy a book. So this video will end on me buying a book and you getting to see which said book I bought. So if you enjoyed this, let me know in the comments down below if you want to see something like this again. And I will see you when I see you after you see me buying my book. Let's see if I can find something in my favorite indie bookstore where we live for, you know, the book that I deserve because I got 21 out of 28 points. Yeah, let's see. Let's see. Let's see.
Hey, Mama.
Yes, buddy.
Check out this unicorn book.
So I didn't find anything at the other bookstore. The boys did, but I didn't. So we're gonna go here because I did sell some books last week. I'm gonna see how much money I got for them and just browse the shelves. So yay! I got a few more than just one, but all of this was just, I think, like 28 bucks. So not too shabby. I'm excited about them though. Okay, bye!